All right, guys, for section two is going to start talking about fat-soluble vitamins. And so we'll kind of go down the list of, remember the vitamin categories. You have those that are fat-soluble, those that are soluble in water, water-soluble vitamins. And so we'll start here with A, D, E, and K. There is a table, 8.2, that's available in your textbook that does a good job of summarizing all of the vitamins. And so for each one, we're going to kind of hit some of the highlights of the vitamin, kind of what stands out, where are you going to find it, maybe some deficiencies if that's known there. And so we'll start out with vitamin A. You may have heard a few things about vitamin A. Sometimes you see it called other terms such as retinol or beta carotene. And the reason that is there's different sources of vitamin A, and once you ingest that, your body's chemistry can kind of convert that into the form that it can be used in the body. And so, generally, the animal sources, um, uh, food sources that you find vitamin A, whether it's dairy products or fish or especially liver, that animal source is retinol, and then your body uses that as vitamin A. And then plant sources, you may have heard of carotene or beta carotene, especially found in things like carrots or squash or the different sweet potatoes, the pigmented, the orangey yellow pigmented vegetables. Those things have higher concentrations of beta carotene, and that's a pigment, and it provides the color there. But that is converted into vitamin A in the body. And so you see some of the main functions here. It is important for vision. If you've ever heard of eating carrots to help with eyesight, there's some truth to that because carrots have the beta carotene. You convert that to vitamin A. The vitamin A is needed for the receptor cells in your eyes. They're called cone cells that help with color vision. And so it is important for your eyes to have the proper amount of vitamin A. Cell growth, we'll mention a couple of things about that, even your immune system, and part of tissue production, especially epithelial tissue. This is a covering type of a tissue that's in the body. The production of those particular cells and keeping them kind of healthy and maintained, that's also requires some content of vitamin A, some amount of vitamin A there. Each one of these we'll talk about if there is a deficiency associated with it, especially those that are maybe a little more common. Most of these have some type of deficiency. And so vitamin A, the deficiency a lot of times is referred to as night blindness. That's an early sign that someone is not getting the proper amounts, the required amounts of vitamin A. And because it does affect our vision, vitamin A is necessary to maintain the cell receptors in the eyes, and so you first notice it as it's starting to get darker, and so that's referred to as night blindness. It affects epithelial cells. Epithelial cells, for example, the epithelial cells in our skin, hair, nails, they generally produce a protein called keratin. You may have heard of that. It's kind of a hardened type of a protein. That protein is normally there, and it's important to help our hair, nails, outer layers of the skin kind of stay tough. But if these cells are producing too much, and for some reason the not having enough vitamin A, the cells respond to actually making too much, an excess of keratin. And so the cells then are harder and have even a bumpy texture to it. Even cells along the eyes and eyelid can be affected as well. They are generally secreting a very thin layer of mucus to try to cover the eyes. That goes along with the tear and the tear ducts. And so not having enough vitamin A causes those cells not to secrete that mucus like they normally would. And again, they're becoming kind of filled up with a little bit of excess keratin, and that results in a dry eye type of condition. You can see that word there, xerophthalmia, and so it's a dry eye type of a condition that's associated with not having enough vitamin A. Can you have too much? In this case, especially when you're talking about the fat-soluble vitamins, remember A, D, E, and K, your body stores these up in our fat tissue. And so it is possible to have too much. And again, you kind of have to be careful if you are taking vitamin supplements to check with your primary care provider and find out what the right amount is, what the correct dosage is, if they recommend it at all. And so most of the time we can get the on our daily diet, our normal fruits, vegetables intake is usually sufficient to get the vitamins that we need. But check with your healthcare provider and find out, maybe there is a reason for you to take a multivitamin or an extra vitamin, something like that. So, but too much vitamin A may cause problems with the liver. It may cause birth defects. And so it's something that's monitored for pregnant women. And so that term there that you see, teratogen, that's just a term there for a birth defect. And so there has been studies that show that high concentrations of vitamin A in the mother could lead to birth defects. Less problematic and perhaps more commonly seen is if you have too much of the beta carotene, again, the pigment, coming from carrots, sweet potatoes, squash, those types of vegetables there, fruits and vegetables, you see sometimes a little yellowing of the skin. And that's because, again, this is being stored in the fat layers, like right underneath the skin. And it's usually not a problem. Sometimes you may see it in small children or infants that are eating a lot of baby food, the Gerber type baby foods that or whatever brand that has the squash and the carrots and that sort of thing. A lot of that can start to build up. Usually it's not a problem, and it will you can kind of go back, decrease the amount of those vegetables, and you can and it's usually not an issue. Now let's look at vitamin D. We may see vitamin D more commonly, I guess, and one connection that you need to make for vitamin D is how it relates to calcium. Vitamin D is necessary to basically tell your body to hold on to more calcium. We know we need calcium. We'll talk about this later, but we know we need calcium to have strong bones. It goes into our bone matrix, our bone density. But calcium is also needed for muscle function, nervous system function. So you have things in place to help maintain calcium. You're not making any calcium, so any calcium that you ingest, you need to make sure that you are properly balancing that. Vitamin D is one thing that helps you do that. And the way it does it, main way is that it helps to store up that extra calcium into your bones. It helps to reduce any calcium that you may normally waste as a urinary excretion. So it programs the kidneys or signals the kidneys to hold on to reabsorb more calcium from the urine. And the same type of thing for the intestines. It basically allows the intestines to reabsorb or to absorb more calcium so that you're not wasting it. So that's what vitamin D is helping us to retain calcium. If we don't have enough vitamin D in children, there's a condition known as rickets. It's basically as a result of not storing up enough calcium, so the bones become weakened, right? And so you're lacking that mineral matrix in the bones, the calcium and the phosphate mineral that creates those strong bones. If you don't have enough vitamin D, then you're not possibly holding on to enough calcium, and that results in softer bones. In adults, that could lead to osteomalacia, which is just an adult form of rickets and having softer type bones. This is different than osteoporosis. Porosis means that you've got more of a porous structure in the bone matrix, but this is more just a weaker, softer type of a bone matrix. Let's move on to vitamin E. Vitamin E, there's just a couple things to mention here. This is one main vitamin. We'll talk about a few as we go through, but this this one main one here has a lot of antioxidant activity. Remember those antioxidants we mentioned before? They help to kind of stabilize those free radicals, so they're not as reactive anymore. And so vitamin E has properties to try to stabilize those. And the example here in the textbook was, free radicals. Free radicals can damage the cell membrane. You see the phospholipid bilayer of the cell membrane. Those radicals are very reactive. They can damage that. They can lead to problems in the cell membrane of our tissues. And so vitamin E has that property of having extra electrons that it can stabilize those free radicals. A lot of times you'll see vitamin E in ointments and creams that you can apply to maybe a facial cream, or to kind of help with cell repair. If you have cells that are damaged, or help with, it's kind of like an anti-aging type cream. A lot of times it's marketed like that, but it has those properties of kind of healing the skin. You find this in things like seeds and nuts and plant-based oils. Usually, sometimes you do see a deficiency here for vitamin E. And if that's the case, sometimes there's problems with the immune system, or the immune system kind of is impaired. There has been studies that suggest that severe deficiencies in vitamin E may result in nervous system problems, loss of neuromuscular control. So things like perhaps even paralysis can occur with very extreme cases of vitamin E deficiency, or even blindness. The last of the fat-soluble vitamins, vitamin K, one of the main things here we need to know is that vitamin K helps in the blood clotting process. There's other things involved. There's many different clotting proteins involved and other ions that are involved. Calcium is involved in that process as well. But vitamin K is a vitamin that is needed in the pathway to help our blood to clot. You find this especially in kind of those green leafy vegetables, greens, broccoli, green beans, string beans, whatever you call those, the soybeans, and in oils, canola oil as well. So very important for vitamin K. And the deficiency here, obviously, if there's a deficiency that's too high, it may have problems with clotting of the blood. Sometimes newborns may have a vitamin K deficiency, and usually there's an injection or treatment or supplement that can kind of boost their vitamin K levels there. Sometimes if someone has a malabsorption in the body, the GI tract, they're not able to absorb certain vitamins, then that could be a problem. This is also one we mentioned before, that there are some gut bacteria, natural bacteria occurring in our GI tract that produce a small amount of vitamin K, and we can actually use that. So having those probiotics actually helps with vitamin K as well. All right, the next section is going to be water-soluble vitamins, and we'll go through again most of these and just kind of mention a few things about it. One of the things to kind of understand the function of many of the water-soluble vitamins is that because many of these are involved in some type of energy metabolic reaction, many of them function as what's called a coenzyme. And so we've talked about enzymes before. Enzymes help to catalyze or speed up a chemical reaction, but sometimes enzymes require a molecule, a substance, a vitamin that serves as what's called a coenzyme. It needs something to work together. That prefix co means together. And so these are molecules that kind of help interact with the enzyme and help to kind of regulate it, or help to even get it started, get it enabled so that it actually functions. And so some vitamins, especially the B-type vitamins that we'll look at, are going to function like a coenzyme. It helps the enzymes kind of work more efficiently. So let's look at a few of these. You'll notice that the group that we're going to talk about first, the B vitamins, they have a name associated with it, and then they also have like a letter designation also. So thiamine is B1, and it is one of these that work like a coenzyme. It helps in metabolic reactions. It helps in building up amino acids and forming proteins. And it helps in the production of chemicals that our nervous system uses called neurotransmitters. So again, it's very energy related. It's not energy itself, right? So we're not extracting ATP energy directly from vitamin B1, but instead it is involved in the pathway to release some energy from things like carbohydrates, glucose, because it's working as a coenzyme. One deficiency or a deficiency here, if an individual is not getting enough of the B1 vitamin, there's a deficiency disorder known as beriberi, and some populations that have a diet restriction may encounter this if they're not getting enough B1 vitamin. And this disorder varies, but it can affect your cardiovascular system, but it could also affect your nervous system as well, because this helps in the production of these nerve chemicals. And so if you don't have enough of the B1, you may have problems with the nervous system functions. B2 is also known as riboflavin. Again, and you'll see this a lot. Again, works as a coenzyme. It's helping enzymes that are needed for going through metabolic reactions involving carbohydrates, lipids, and amino acids. And it's all based on energy. So extracting energy out of carbohydrates, lipids or fats, even amino acids, requires not just an enzyme to do that, but also coenzymes. Riboflavin is there to help with that process as well. You may have seen this on dairy products, and if you eat liver, a lot of people don't, but if you eat organ meat, liver, and then some grains are enriched with this. So in other words, they've added this back to grains, when you find this in cereal. Cereal a lot of times have been fortified with vitamin B2. Niacin, again, not just to kind of repeat ourselves, but niacin again is also working as a coenzyme also. And again, it's kind of a metabolic type reaction. Helps with metabolic reactions. The deficiency here is something known as pellagra, and is characterized by dermatitis, inflammation of the skin area. A lot of times that includes kind of eczema even, and kind of dryness and itching of the skin, inflamed areas, diarrhea, even dementia and death if it is severe in severe cases. And so that's niacin, which is B3. Vitamin B6, another one of the metabolic involved B vitamins. Sometimes this is referred to as pyridoxine. I didn't include that on the slide here, but most of the time you just see this called B6. Sometimes you'll find this in a multivitamin. It's pretty commonly found in a multivitamin. Sometimes they put the B vitamins, some of the B vitamins together, like B6 and B12, because they do impact our overall metabolism. And so it is associated with kind of energy in the body because it's needed to metabolize amino acids and convert them over to energy. It is possible to have deficiencies of this vitamin, but it's found in so many different foods that it's pretty rare to have a vitamin B6 deficiency. I didn't list the foods here, but just about any kind of animal-based food, meat, chicken, beef, animal products, eggs, dairy usually has it. But then also plant products as well, plant foods as well, potatoes, oats, grains, tomatoes, have it, broccoli, whole grain foods. So it's pretty common to have to have enough of the vitamin B6 in our diets. But you can see some of the symptoms here, and a lot of this goes back to um, something related to metabolism or nervous system functions, um, including seizures, depression, confusion, but also anemia and dermatitis. And then there again, B12 is not exactly a carbon copy, but again, it's functioning as a coenzyme. It is needed to help metabolize another B vitamin known as B9, which is folic acid or folate, and so it's involved in that pathway. So this this vitamin uh, helps another vitamin function, and so they're kind of going together. You do see this with myelin sheaths. This is part of the nervous system, so our nerve axons. If you've had a little bit of basic biology or anatomy, the nerve endings there, the axons coming out of the neurons, are generally covered with a protective layer, insulation almost, of called the myelin sheath. And so this is important for that purpose, to maintain that protection. Again, you can find it in a lot of different uh, food sources, whether it's animal or plant-based, but especially the animal-based meats, um, and even including fish as well. And then sometimes you see this as in fortified foods, and so they've added it, to cereals. And so next time you look at a box of cereal, you'll see, especially the B vitamins, you'll see a lot of times um, certain types of cereals that have B vitamins added to them. So they've been fortified with these. Long list of signs and symptoms for B12 deficiency. It's not quite as uncommon as the B6 that we mentioned. So there are occasions where uh, individuals lack B12, and many of these do go back to nervous system function. And again, that myelin sheath that's on the nerves, um, axons there, the nerve cells can get damaged. It can affect our red blood cells to make enlarged red blood cells that have a problem of transporting oxygen in the body, and so that can lead to what's called megaloblastic anemia, not getting enough oxygen out to the tissues because the red blood cells are not forming correctly. It can lead to muscle weakness, mouth pain in the mouth, sore mouth, including the tongue. Smooth and shining tongue is how your book kind of describes it. It's where if you looked at your tongue, it looks kind of bumpy, and that's all the little papilla that's on the surface of the tongue. For whatever reason, if you don't have enough B12, that papilla that's on your tongue actually start kind of wearing down. And so it makes your tongue look smooth rather than the normal, the little bumpy where your taste buds are kind of down in. Other more serious conditions, symptoms related to the nervous system, central nervous system, memory loss, confusion, difficulty walking, muscle control, muscle balance, maintaining balance, numbness, tingling sensation. These are all possible symptoms of vitamin B12 deficiency. All right, so water-soluble vitamins, we got the big group of B vitamins, and there's others. This is kind of a selected list. There are a few others that I didn't include here, but there are a few other B vitamins out there. And then the other example for our water-soluble vitamins are vitamin C, and everybody's heard of vitamin C, and you probably have an idea of where you could find some vitamin C naturally in some foods and where you can find it even in supplements and things. But a couple of the functions here. One main function that we forget about, a lot of times we realize, yeah, you need some vitamin C for our immune system, and that's how it's a lot of times marketed to help boost our immunity, and that's great, it's fine. But it's also very important in collagen production. Collagen is a protein that we find specifically in connective tissues. Well, you find connective tissues a lot of places in the body, but this is in our bones and our skin. In our cartilage, you have all of this connective tissue that has collagen there for support. And so it's important whenever your body is kind of maintaining the proteins in the body, that you build up and you maintain this collagen inside of your connective tissues. And so that's important to have that. Antioxidant, there again, we looked at vitamin E before, that had some antioxidant properties. And so vitamin C also has antioxidant properties. It just means that it helps to stabilize those free radicals, which may mean that it, perhaps gives us some protection against certain types of cancers. And of course, the immune system is very important. Some other things here: synthesis of bile. Bile is produced by the liver, stored in the gallbladder, helps us digest fats. Some neurotransmitters, brain chemicals, if you want to call it that, and then some hormones actually use vitamin C to in their pathway. You can have deficiencies. Although it's pretty rare to have a vitamin C deficiency, there is something called scurvy. You may have heard of this before. The classic, or the old example of scurvy, is where you hear about pirates that would have problems losing either limbs or teeth falling out, and that's because vitamin C again is needed for that collagen production. That collagen is in our tendons and our ligaments, and it's the ligaments that's holding our teeth in place. And so you have to have the vitamin C for that purpose. But really, only about 10 milligrams of vitamin C is really required to prevent a vitamin C deficiency. That's a very small amount. So, for example, just an average size orange would have about 50 milligrams, 5 times the amount that you would have to have in order to prevent deficiency. So, and you can get, obviously, there's many fruits that any of the citrus fruits, of course, berries are going to have vitamin C there, but even vegetables as well. And so there's a lot of places that have a nice amount of vitamin C for our diets. Of course, supplements are very common. You see that quite a bit. And you can do some research and find out if a supplement is required, or you can again check with your healthcare provider and see if they recommend to making sure, if you're not eating fresh fruits and vegetables a lot, maybe you need a vitamin C supplement to do that, or get some fortified products, some orange juice or something else that has been fortified with vitamin C to add to your diet. You can see kind of the symptoms there of the vitamin C deficiency: fatigue, poor wound healing. That goes back to the collagen, not being able to produce the amount of collagen that the body needs. You can have bleeding or hemorrhages, bleeding gums, bruises, and even affects our overall mental health, depression. Last little section, I want to mention a few things. Section 4 in the chapter talks about whether or not vitamins can be used as medicines. And normally we don't necessarily think about vitamins as medicines because they're not, they are required in our diet. They're very important to make sure we don't get a deficiency. But, the question becomes, do they actually treat a disease or, fix another problem other than a deficiency? And so most of the research is saying that they really don't address other issues. But we'll kind of look at a few things here. There are studies that definitely show that, if you have a diet that have a healthy diet that has lots of fruits and vegetables there, you're going to have lower risk of certain cancers, lower risk of cardiovascular disease, lower risk of eye disorders. Here's one that's mentioned here: age-related macular degeneration. And so the macula is a part of your retina in your eye that helps us really see kind of a central vision. It helps in color vision. It helps us to focus on details. And so macular degeneration is when that that region starts to kind of fail in the eye. And so there has been some studies that suggest that, having, a healthy diet does help lower those risks and those risk factors. But as far as supplements go, there's no real strong evidence, to back up whether or not taking supplements actually helps to lower those risks or not. And so the advice here, and I think this is good advice, anytime you can, try to consume vitamins in their natural state, in our diet, in our foods. So if that means, increasing our fruits, increasing our vegetables, fruit juices and things. Of course, with fruit juices, we have to be careful about added sugars a little bit, but, fruit juices and adding in some fruits and vegetables to our diet, that's really the best way to go, unless you do have a deficiency or unless maybe have some problem absorbing some of these vitamins. But again, check with your healthcare professional. I mentioned this about niacin earlier when we were talking about vitamin B3. There has been some studies indicating that some high doses of niacin can actually cause a decrease in your cholesterol and your LDL. That's low density lipoprotein that binds to cholesterol. The LDL is the bad type of cholesterol that you hear about. And so there's some indication that and again, it's a pretty high dose, would on a daily basis people would see a decrease in their LDL numbers. And so sometimes it's recommended, sometimes it's not. And so there's a couple of side effects. Sometimes you see flushing or redness of the skin and face. Sometimes it causes individuals to kind of have an itchy feeling in their skin, almost like dermatitis. Sometimes the high dose causes problems in the GI tract, potentially even causing damage to the liver. And so it is very, you definitely need to check with your medical healthcare provider to find out if this is something that you need to look at to try to lower LDL cholesterol. Vitamin C, this has been used quite a bit as a preventative and a medicine or something to try to boost our immune system. And so it's generally marketed to try to help our symptoms when we get sick rather than necessarily preventing a particular cold, although maybe it does help boost our immune system a little bit. Everybody's probably seen in the grocery store somewhere, especially on the little checkout aisle there, the Emergen-C or some other type of products that are basically like a mega dose of vitamin C. And so that's, again, it's pretty commonly marketed to try to help our kind of boost our immune system that way. And so there again, perhaps the best thing to do is to increase our diet with fruits and vegetables naturally, because you're getting more benefits there than just the vitamin C and other vitamins. You're getting beneficial sugar. You're getting the fiber that's in the fruits and the vegetables. You're getting other things here, other nutrients, than just taking a vitamin C supplement. So again, there's just the kind of debatable whether or not there's a lot of benefit there. Last one to kind of look at, folic acid, B6, B12. These B vitamins have suggested that to take these if you have experienced what's called blood homocysteine levels are elevated. This is amino acid that can build up in the blood. You generally see this if you have a deficiency in one of the B vitamins. And so it is used to treat high blood homocysteine levels. And again, that's just an amino acid that can build up. And so it does get these levels back down, but there's no real indication that it's going to necessarily reduce some type of cardiovascular event. And so there again, kind of do some research, check with your healthcare provider. If you have a particular concern about one of these diseases or deficiencies, it's always good to check to see is it a dietary thing that you need to address? Or is there a reason for a vitamin? And if so, you need to make sure, what is a proper dosage? Does it have any interaction with any other medicines that you're taking or any other foods that you're eating? And how can I first take care of this naturally, right? Can you pretty easily increase that vitamin intake by increasing the fruits and vegetables in your diet?